Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Crowdfunding 101 session. Just wanted to let you know before we start that this session is going to be translated into Hindi. And if you would like Hindi interpretation, how you would do that is you would click on the little next to the reactions at the bottom of your screen, there's an interpretation button. If you click on that, you'll see that there's an option of English or Hindi. And if you would prefer to have this session translated into Hindi, you simply choose the Hindi option. So I'd firstly like to introduce Dr. Michael Chu. He's a current Rotary Peace Fellow. He's a sustainability educator and a photographer and a designer with degrees in participatory design, social ecology, art photography, humanities, and mathematical physics. So that's quite an interesting mix that he's got over there. He has a background in community-based sustainability programs in non-governmental organizations and local government, and has co-founded various grassroots social change initiatives. He's also passionate about the power of creativity and storytelling to empower and connect communities across cultural and geographic divides. And as you can tell, we are very lucky to have him here. He's going to run quite an interactive workshop for us. So that being said, over to you, Dr. Michael Chu.
Great, thanks, Goranka. And thanks everyone for coming. It's really, really exciting to be here. And I know it's been a big day for everyone. There's so much inspiring information to absorb. Yeah, and thanks for all the organizers. So I'm really excited to organize and run this workshop. I'm part of the first statutory cohort of Peace Fellows that are doing it online at the moment. So I'm calling in from Australia, and our Peace Centre is in Bangkok itself. So it seems fitting to be delivering this online to everyone. And I'm just really passionate about crowdfunding as an amazing vehicle for sharing powerful stories of social change, which I think everyone here is interested in there. So look, for this presentation, there'll be a lot in it. So I'm going to race right into it. So firstly, I just want to acknowledge here that I'm here just outside of Melbourne, Castlemaine, on the Djadjawurrung people's land. So that's unceded Indigenous land, and so would love to give my respect to the elders past and present for this land. And also I'd like to give thanks to I guess groups and organizations that have contributed to this presentation. Start Some Good, Grassroots Collective, Nesta and Tardamong, amongst others. I'm really standing on the shoulders of giants with some of the content here. And finally, the picture to the right-hand side are some of the participants from some of the crowdfunding workshops that I ran through my PhD project in Bangladesh. So if it wasn't for these participants there, this content wouldn't be here as well. So let's get to the workshop overview. So for this workshop, it's in 7 parts, and it's quite interactive as well. So don't worry about it. It'll be exciting. So we're doing the first introduction part as a little background, and there'll be a chance for people to share just over Menti about their background and what led them to the workshop. So the second part will go into crowdfunding. What actually is it? The third part, we're going to be looking at telling your story, and there'll be breakout groups where people can share their story and develop some of it further. Then we'll look at setting funding goals, choosing an appropriate crowdfunding platform. And there'll be another opportunity for breakout groups to be sharing there and developing your project ideas. And then we'll look at marketing outreach there, and there's a final breakout group there as well. So yeah, look, that's the contour through the workshop, and yeah, there's a lot of content. So let's see how far we can go. But I'm very excited to be hearing people's ideas. So with just my background here in terms of crowdfunding, I've run 4 crowdfunding campaigns myself. So can see the first one here was after I worked in Bangladesh on climate change, and I came back and I ran a crowdfunding campaign to publish a book, which is, as you can see in the little picture, this one, photography book there. So that one was in 2012, raised about $10,000. The second one here was a smaller project called Buried Words, a community arts project. And that was about sharing people's, I suppose, words that they'd find it hard to share, and making a sort of artistic choose your own adventure project out of that. That was on the Possible website. That's in 2014. And then the third one here, which is Portraits of Change, that was through my PhD in 2017, and that was crowdfunding some workshops, some photo voice workshops using photography for story sharing in Bangladesh. So that raised about $5,500 through that. And then the last project was called Climate Action Pen Pals, and that was a second sort of evolution of that first project. And that was looking at a cultural exchange. So youth in Australia would write letters to youth in Bangladesh over environmental action and so forth. So that's where my knowledge of climate change, of crowdfunding comes from. But there's so many different platforms and so many different forms of crowdfunding that I'm sure some of you here might have your own knowledge here that there'll be opportunities to share as well. So let's hear about where people are from around here. So I'll just use the Menti platform for that. Bear with me. There's a lot of windows open. Here we go. So here we go. So there's a link I'll put in the chat. You can ask, I'd love to know where everyone is from. So if you go to this website, we'll send the link in the chat as well. Here we go. So if everyone wants to click on that and yeah, just type in which country you're from. It'd be great to see who's here. So far, we've the maximum. Pakistan is in the lead. We've got India coming up. Australia's, oh goodness, okay. Got England as well. Fantastic. Great, look at that. So there's a whole range of time zones that everyone's dialing in from. Fantastic. So in all of your countries, there's no doubt specialized crowdfunding platforms that I don't know about as well. So it's great that everyone comes from different backgrounds here. Fantastic. Okay, well, the next question. Oops. And slide. Oops. Here we go. It'd be great to know why people came to the workshop, and I'll just send that link in the chat as well. Here we go. Oh, Melbourne Uni, see from you, Elaine. There we go. It's a country of its own. Project Republic. Fantastic. Great. So hearing from the rest of the sessions, there's so many amazing projects that I was thinking, how many of them have been parts of crowdfunding campaigns already? And hopefully there'll be many more to come. Okay, so there's some great creative ways of projecting impact. Fantastic. And yet creativity is a really important part of crowdfunding because you're really telling creative stories. And so the more creative it is, the more you can engage people, for sure. Okay. So while that's coming in, I'll just go to the next question. And because I'm only using the free account, they only gave me 2 slides, so I have to change slide. Here is another. Oops. Link. So here we go. Yeah, well, it'd be great to get to see what words people associate with crowdfunding. You can send that in. I might have made a mistake with the links, I realized, but hopefully it's the right link now. Okay. Yep. Money and community. That's perfect. Yep. It's all about both of them, and you can't get the money without community, and that's right. That's the power of the crowd and how to involve the crowd in it. Yeah, community. Yeah. Yep. Being digital ideas, lots of small donations. Yeah, it's a way of really mobilizing the power of all these tiny little donations. Yep, and it's making it very convenient for people. We're in an age where it's very busy, so crowdfunding fills a gap where we can really engage with stories and make it really easy to give. Yep, it's online electronic forms. Great. Okay. Okay, I'll move on to the next one here, and it's what are your potential crowdfunding ideas? So if you came to this workshop saying, oh, look, I just want to learn about crowdfunding, that's great. But to get the most out of it, it's really great if you have an idea already. Oh, that's great to help street kids who don't have access to formal education. Fantastic. So it could be an idea, a project you're working on already, or it could be just a dream project, and anything, because we're going to work through this during this workshop. So put in, you might need to update on your screen with that link. Oops. Yep. Any other ones coming in? Okay. Fantastic. Community and public part for women and girls. Okay. Rotary's In Polio Now campaign. Mobilization. And each of these different topics, you're guaranteed to find that people have been running crowdfunding on themes very similar to them. So a fantastic way, first off, is to really research and go out and see what other campaigns people run with them. Okay, fantastic. So I'll go back to fantastic. So it's great to get a bit of a snapshot of where people are from. And now I'm going to introduce our online workspace. So this is a Google Sheet, which I will send in the chat. Everyone wants to click on that. I've put it in the chat. That's basically a Google worksheet which will be basically the home, so that everyone can develop, as this workshop's going along, their own crowdfunding idea. So if you'll click on that link, you'll be able to see that worksheet, and you'll be able to see where you can enter details into it. So the first tab, which is called Contacts and Projects, that's a tab where you can be putting your name. If you click on the link of it, you can see I've got example one on road 3, and so you just read across. You've got Michael Chu, and then you've got that. Everyone will be writing their name when it comes to the session below that, and working across and helping develop your project through that. So just write across, not down, or you'll interfere with other people's projects. There's other tabs in this sheet as well. I can put it up here so you can see. There's a platform tab which shows some crowdfunding platforms that are there already, but where wanting to crowdsource the information, so you can enter some of the information that you know as well. And there's also resources as well here. So you can also look at them or add things there as well. Opportunities and events, you can add that as well. So, but there'll be time to do that later. So just a few tips with that, and the facilitators will all be helping with this, is to try not to rewrite over other people's stories on that. If you haven't used a Google Sheet before, when there's a little highlighted cell, you can see here, it's highlighted, it means someone's working on it. So just, if you see a highlight, just choose a cell below and keep working across. That's one tip. There's an undo button here. If you accidentally delete something, you can undo it. If you want to have a manual break in the cell, you can hit Alt Return on a PC or Command Return on a Mac. So you can write hello and then hello here, like that. So there's ways of doing it, but don't worry too much about the technical parts, really. It's just being able to write some things in there. You can adjust the zoom. Any issues, your facilitators here are very experienced with all of these things, and they'll be able to help you. Fantastic. Okay. So now let's dive into what is crowdfunding here. And you've probably heard about, as we said, people have heard about it and maybe participate in the campaign itself. So basically, what is it? It's a way of shifting the traditional relationship with funding. So the traditional way is, you go to a donor, you write a grant, and you have to fill their exact criteria, make blog frames and so forth, and then you're basically pointing. You can think of a funnel. You've got your idea, and you've got all your ideas here in the top of the funnel, and you have to point it at one or two donors, and you hope that it'll work out. Crowdfunding is the opposite, where it involves many small amounts of funds from all kinds of people, many different people, and it inverts that funnel. So at the top is the non-profit or the community project, the organizer, could be an art project, whatever it is, and at the bottom are the donors. And in that sense, it's about building relationships with these with all these individuals there. And it gives a lot more opportunity to tell your story, because you're telling it to a wider audience rather than just a traditional one. So growth and distribution. Well, this is back in 2011, it was about 1 billion. And then a few years ago, estimated 65 billion. And then this is estimating in 2025, so in a few years, 100 billion. This is just in developing countries alone. And I use the term developing as a problematic term here. I guess it's just saying that really a lot of the growth in crowdfunding in the first 10 years was in richer countries, economically more advanced countries. But it's really, the dynamics really shifting now, which is really, really exciting. And there's fantastic opportunities for people from all kinds of countries to get involved, because there's so many new platforms. Having said that, if you Google around, how to run a crowdfunding campaign and so forth, a lot of what comes up is very Western biased approaches about Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and so forth. So that's because of that lag in time. So that's why I've tried to provide some resources around crowdfunding in the global areas. But again, you can be inputting this as well. So it's exciting time for whoops, jumped ahead. Crowdfunding. So what are the benefits here? Well, many things. Global reach. You can expand past your tiny little maybe community and reach donors on the other side of the world. Here, that's fantastic. The second one, ease of integration. So a lot of grassroots groups are using very savvy with social media. They might have a website, but they're already on Facebook and using all sorts of things. It's very easy to integrate with social media. Third one, outreach to new donors and supporters. A lot of the platforms, though, they have opportunities for forums and discussion and so forth. So it enables you to have conversations with supporters and donors. So it's not just about getting their money, it's around building up that relationship and outreach to new areas. It's a way of diversifying revenue to a particular project. You might be getting particular grants, but you're also getting crowdfund, so it diversifies that. So it's also opportunities to use cryptocurrencies. Some of them involve that as well. So diversification. 5, looking at innovation as well. So if you've got an idea and you want to prototype it, crowdfunding can be a great way of testing the potential of a particular product or a project or workshop. You can test it to see how people are interested or engaged or not. Number 6, it helps legitimize your organization or project. That's a big one as well, because the crowdfunding process, you develop a story and a video and so forth, and people engage with it. So it captures a great documentation, as it were, of your project and people's involvement, and that can help legitimize the activity you're doing and tie it into further campaigns or grants and that kind of thing. Maybe most importantly, it moves past the what they call the gatekeeper model. Like you know, in the past, many groups might need to be legally incorporated or so forth to apply for certain grants, which can be very, very difficult. So it kind of bypasses these gatekeepers and goes, well, look, we've got a powerful story to tell, and we'll go directly to donors themselves. So instead of having a fantastic balance sheet or legal status, you just have to be demonstrating your passion and your track record with creating change. So I think of, with a shocker, the idea of the everyday hero and everybody being a change maker. That's really the spirit of crowdfunding. I've got the lower equation here of you, the idea, plus the crowdfunding platform, and plus the community, that equals impact there. So that's some of why it has benefits. Is it right for you? Briefly, it's for some groups that are not online, it could be a challenge. So it definitely requires a website, social media presence, because it works digitally. So that's really important. Do you have the time to be able to market and do outreach of the campaign? A lot of people think, oh, just put the crowdfunding page up and magically money will appear. It's a lot of hard work in telling the story, engaging with people. So that takes time. And the third part is, can you receive funds as well? Every crowdfunding platform has different ways of collecting funds, and it depends on which country you're in, but that's also another key consideration. How does it work? I'm sure a lot of people might know the basics of it, but basically, if you're here, you're the entrepreneur, and you develop a pitch, and you decide on what platform it is, and you'll send your pitch for the project to the platform. Each platform is different, and they might see if you want to change it and so forth, give you some advice, because they want your project to succeed as well. They take a fee, so it's a win-win situation. When that gets accepted, pitch goes live, and you've got your project idea, you've got a funding goal, how much you want to raise, you've got a deadline, maybe you'll have a month to raise $1,000 to run some workshops, and you might have some rewards you want to give to participants as well. So what happens, it opens, and then you start promoting it, and you see if you can engage with your supporters so that they can chip in those funds. So that's the exciting stage. So you go through the period, and then there'll be a deadline there. And with there's two models, which I'll talk about later. With the one where it's all or nothing, is if you don't get the funds at the end, nothing gets transferred or it's returned. And if you do make it, then the project gets the money. And then you can see on your page the project and the supporters and all those funds coming through. And that's really exciting. I remember that when suddenly on the day it closes, you've got all this money coming in, and it's like all the money carries with it the support from all these people. So that's very exciting. And then the last part is really, well, you need to do the project, but you need to also engage with the audience that you've developed through there. So that's the general model with it. So now, how does it work around telling your story, the third part? And I put here a quote by Oscar Wilde. It's my favorite of mine, which is, "Be yourself, everyone else has already taken." Because that's a key thing with crowdfunding, is really, it is the invitation to tell your own story on your own project story, no one else's. We all do projects that might have overarching themes. It could be environment or women or public space, but it's our unique story, which is the part which will really affect and mobilize people. So, oops, a bit of a delay. Here we go. So, how to do it? And I'm sure many people here are aware of theory of change, where you might write in a grant and so forth. With crowdfunding, it's really the story of change that you're working with, and it's really basically in a nutshell, the messages are, one is the needs. It's like, what is the need that you're trying to address, whether it's environment or youth or so forth. What's the need, and why is it important? Because there's a lot of competing needs. Why is that important? The second one is the strategy. You know, what are you actually doing? What's the intervention? How is that going to impact that need? What's the creative part of that? Why is it different? What does it involve? And the third part is the call to action, in a sense there. What action do you want the audience to take? I mean, obviously you want them to support financially your project, but also it's good to be strategic with crowdfunding. You might be running it at the same time as you're running other workshops, other forms of community engagement. So it's a good way of being able to promote those other things as well. So it's really important to think of crowdfunding in parallel with any other communication, outreach, engagement strategies that you might have. Here. So next one, whoops, go. Telling your story here. So what is the change you're trying to make here? And so I guess that's really, it's really about a few things. You're not trying to, you might be very excited about the website or the book or the project that you're running, but you need to be able to be specific about linking that that intervention with the bigger picture. So how can you really tell the story tangibly, tactilely, using all the senses? So crowdfunding often uses videos. So even if you haven't built the shelter or run the workshops yet, you can tell it vividly so people can imagine that and they want to be involved. Second bit, of course, it needs to be realistic. Then people need to know that, okay, you and your team behind it can actually achieve it. It's not too pie in the sky. The third one I feel is one of the most important is the inspiration part. And that's where it's actually different. It's a different psychology than appealing in the traditional way where you're writing grants into donors and so forth. In the donor approach, you're dealing with organizations and processes, because they're log frames and KPIs and that, which is, they're mainly using the rational brain. They're looking at analytically, effectively at outputs and so forth. In crowdfunding, you're engaging with the individuals. You're wanting to win over their hearts and minds. So that's looking at not only those impacts, but the emotional parts of it, the stories. Why is it really important? How is your story weaving into it? That's the inspiration part of it. You really want to engage with that because that's what's going to move people to not only donate, but also hopefully get involved, whether they'll volunteer with your project or so forth. So that part is really critical. Now, there's lots of different stories associated with crowdfunding, and this is just 5 that are often associated with social change orientated types. So of course, the issues, that what are you working on? What are the actual issues that are being involved here? And again, it's good to look at thematically as well as the intersections, because it's a crowded space. You want to show how your project is different, is addressing a different way. What are the intersections there? The second one, looking at place. It's very a powerful way to articulate place-based connections, people's identity. When I was running mine on Bangladesh, I could use a lot of the video and the materials and the photographs from there to evoke that part of the place of Bangladesh, even though I was targeting mainly people in Australia with the campaign there. Innovation, the third one. What is new about the intervention? Is there something that can catch people's attention, make them think differently about the issue, get them involved? Again, it's a very noisy landscape. Is there a combination there, an aspect of it that you can tell a different way? Community and culture, of course, you're looking at how you're appealing to not only, I suppose, like I said, the place-based where your project's based, but where you appealing it to. You might be targeting local people near the project, and then they'll have a lot of cultural knowledge there. But maybe you might be targeting diaspora or expats overseas, in another place, another culture. How are you going to tell a story that's relevant for them? And finally, maybe one of the most important one is your own story. Why do you care yourself? What led you to action? Because it's people want to be able to link between an abstract issue or intervention to a personal story. And I mean, all good social change storytelling does that there. So sometimes it can feel a bit vulnerable if because you might be exposing yourself out to the world. But it can be a very powerful way, because people can relate to your change story and really get involved that way. So that's 5 different ways. And I'll go through very quickly. This is an example from my project. I'll put that in the group chat, actually, so you can look at it, and you can look at it on the screen as well. There's a lot of delays with my screen. So, and I use this not to say it's the best crowdfunding at all, but because I know it very well, and I know the flaws in it as well. So this one, there's a video here. There, we won't have time to watch the whole video, but video is a very powerful way of engaging people there. Oops, video is doing, take that away. That's the 54 supporters, engage with it. And we've got a little snapshot of what the project is, who are the people there, and there's photographs. Again, visuals are very important. You mightn't have photographs. These are from previous workshops that I did, but you might have related ones. You can put them all in there. And again, this comes back to the why, the needs of it here, on climate change, infographics. This was looking, again, the project was in Bangladesh, but the donors were in Australia. So it's how to relate issues in Bangladesh to an Australian audience. And so more issues, how do you go across geographic barriers? So, and then here it is, here's the intervention, photo workshops, saying, yes, we're going to run some workshops. This can help raise the voice of youth, tell them about the positive stories of how they are working on environmental change over there. Partner organizations, more photographs, passionate about encouraging expression. So it's looking at really, I guess we're telling a bigger story here, there. So it's really, with all of your projects, they're embedded in lots of different stories. The more that you can draw it in, better. And then we go through the rewards like that. So that's just briefly, that's my project. But again, it's not the best one. It's just an example. I'm sure you guys can do even better ones. So now this is the first exciting breakout group we've got here. So this is an example of sharing. I guess we've got a chance now to really share your project, your idea with the partner. So in a moment, the lovely Tex will put us into breakout groups of 2. Just after I explain these instructions, we'll basically be going, you'll be in groups of 2, and just for 2 minutes each, we're very short packed time frame. Just share the idea. It's like a little short pitch, and then swap over. So this is about 4 minutes, and then you'll start writing your own story of change. So that's the and you'll do that in our crowdfunding resource sheet, that Google Doc said before. So I've just put it in the chat there. So that will be, if you click on that, then you can start entering your story into that underneath my one. So yeah, any questions with that before we go into the groups? Good, great. Okay, fantastic, great. Well, go into the groups, enjoy, and yeah, I'll look forward to seeing in the sheet swelling with ideas. And again, give a message or to facilitator or myself if there's any issues with that. Great. Okay. Enjoy.
Hi everyone, the rooms are open. Hi Michael, everyone has been assigned a room. There are 2 people in each group.
Great.
And you
okay.
can jump in if you want to in any of the rooms.
Fantastic. Okay, great. And just thanks, Kajal. Any feedback? Is the screens is it working from the tech point of view?
Yeah, it's working.
Great. Okay. No, that's
Why is Rabia showing twice?
Actually, she is moving in and out of the meeting. So there are a number of people who are like moved out of the meeting.
So I have rearranged that. She was missing, and then there was one more person who was in a room by himself.
Okay.
So they are done.
Yeah.
I'll send the broadcast message again.
Yeah, so if you could send actually with the broadcast messages, maybe after has it got the time? I don't have access to the time of how long the rooms have been open, but if you can send the message maybe just 10 maybe 1 minute 45 for saying wind up and swap over.
Yeah,
that'd be great. And then at maybe 3 minutes 45 to swap. Actually, at 3 minutes 45, that would be just with the spreadsheet to remind people to talk into the spreadsheet. Great. I see Gorenka's put something in. That's really good. How can I go into the groups?
So can you see the breakout room at the bottom?
Uh,
You know, next to the reactions button, there's 4 squares.
Breakout rooms. Okay.
Click
It
on
was
that, you
hidden.
will see several rooms open. And
Yeah.
on the number, there's a number on the far right side. You can hover over it and it says join. So you can
Okay.
join these rooms.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, that's good. Is there any room without a facilitator in it, or?
Actually, there's one in every room. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Okay, great. And I'll just, before I jump in, just to remind, when you do send that second reminder to everyone, just tell them to now write the details in the Google Sheet. Can they all see the chat from their rooms?
They would have seen the last message that was posted. We had posted the chat with the Google Sheet.
Yeah. Okay. As long as they can see that. Okay.
Elsa, should we pause the recording for some time?
Yeah.
Screen shared. Screen's back. Good. Okay.
Twice everything I wrote disappeared. So
after you write it, you have to hit return, and that will save what you've written. So every time you write, you hit return, and it will be saved.
Well, then there was this third problem in the one of a final form I wanted to fill it out. I could not fill out anything, but my buddy could type it out. So I was filling it out on the chat, and she was copy pasting.
Great. Whatever, we're all about innovations here. So whatever innovation can be used. And it can be a bit clunky, the sheet. I guess this is just a simple way that it's accessible for everyone. Everyone owns it and sees it. It's not flat fancy, but it is a little bit clunky. So thanks for your patience with it. But yeah, as a reminder, you type in it and then you hit return and it goes into the cell. And it's great to see yeah, that there's summer coming there already, which is fantastic. Okay, well, we're about halfway through, so I thought just do a minor stretch break. Is everyone seeing hopefully my screen? Can everyone see the cat? Cat's up on the screen?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, let's do a good stretch because we've all been probably in front of screens too long today. So yeah, if you've got a cat, that will make it easier. Else just use these. And I love cats. I don't have one. That's why there's a lot of cats through this presentation, because I think they're very inspiring. Okay, so let's go to the fourth bit, which is setting your goals here. So this is really about, well, how big do you want to raise, with crowdfunding? So that's a complex question. And some of the things behind it, one way of looking at it is this equation. This is equation what I use. And it's simply the goal. The goal of it is the reach times the propensity times the capacity times the persuasion. So what does that mean? So the reach is basically how many people can you actually engage. So that's, you know, what are your networks like? You know, how can you actually get your message out there? That's the most basic one. The propensity is how much do they care? So that's the part of the alignment with the audience. They actually care about your issue or the intervention. So you need to reach them and they need to care. The third one is they actually have to have the capacity to give. And the great thing with crowdfunding is they don't have to give very much. Even a lot of $5 donations all add up. And really, it's not necessarily about the money, but it's about the relationship there. So in a sense, they have to have a capacity to be involved, and that takes time and a little bit of money, but it's not necessarily about the amount of money. It's the capacity to actually give and on a platform level interact and so forth. The third bit is actually the last part is the persuasion, is how persuasive is your campaign to actually inspire them to donate. You can reach them, they could care about it, they could have the capacity to give, but if they've forgotten about it because they're too busy or they haven't known that your funding deadline's passed, then you're not going to actually engage them. So that's a really key part of the campaign to actually persuade them there. There's of course other factors as well from the other end, which is the project cost and the resources and the team and so forth. But that equation itself is something that I think is, if you come back to that, that's a great way of thinking of it. Now to get that, there's a few different models. And I was searching all over the internet in the last week to try to find a diagram. I couldn't, so I had to make it myself. So there's three different models here, and I'll go through them. And the fixed one is what most people would probably know about. It's called all or nothing. Basically, you might want to raise $1,000 to run some domestic violence prevention workshops. So if you don't reach your $1,000, no money will change hands. So the pros of that is it creates urgency and excitement. It's like you want to run these workshops and this is what you need. It's the most powerful motivator for you to get that money, is because if you don't get it, nothing will happen. And everyone else knows that that the stakes are really high with that. So there's examples where people will get, it might be a 2-month campaign and it'll be like the last day before it, and there was one, what was the name of it? They were still $5,000 behind the target. And they sent an email to all the supporters and they said, look, we need $5,000 in one day, or none of it will go forward. And all the supporters had already put in money. And so they're already invested, not only financially, but emotionally. So they reached out to their friends and they got that last number. So it's actually very powerful. Of course, it can be high risk. You might get the target. It's good for social entrepreneurs and products and lumpy things that need a certain amount of money, films to go forth. And it's good because if you don't get it, there's no pressure to do the actual activity. And most crowdfunding platforms do it. The second model is flexible, or keep it all is another name for that. That means basically any funds that come in, you'll keep them. So of course that's lower risk, but the cons are there's not really a sense of a big goal there, because you're going to get all the money anyway. So what if you don't get the target? People are like, well, can you still do your intervention, do your project? So it doesn't have quite as much momentum behind it. But it can be good if it's already a non-profit that has a recurrent program where any money that can come in can automatically be used. A lot of crowdfunding platforms use it. The third one, which is kind of rarer, and I call it hybrid or stretch goal. It's a bit of a mix of both. Basically, you've got a goal that you need to reach your target just to get the money, and then you've got a stretch goal that you like, a dream goal. So it could be like you just wanted $1,000 to run 4 domestic violence workshops, but if you got $5,000, you could go to 5 different schools to run them, not one school. So it kind of gives the best of both worlds. So it makes setting the goals easier. You don't have to guess, what if I don't reach this target? You can set a low target and then follow up with a higher one. Cons, it can be confusing for people. So you want to make sure your campaign is written clearly and what the first goal would create and what the second goal would create. And it's good for anything. With the platforms, you can do it informally on many. but there's few ones that I've seen that do it really well. I'm biased because Start Some Good and Possible, the ones I've used, they do it, but there could be many other platforms out there that do it as well. So that's the models there. Now the rewards, you might, who's heard about rewards? Drop it in the chat of any rewards that you've taken on or offered on a crowdfunding campaign. Anyone? No, maybe no, no one yet. Well, drop them in if you have. Basic rewards are ways of rewarding supporters. They believe in your project, they'll donate, but it's a way of kind of providing incentives. So what are they? The easiest ones are like acknowledgements. So it might be a shout out on social media. Other ones could be craft or yeah, I've seen t-shirts and logos. Yep, that's a possible one as well. So rewards, yeah, it could be craft items. It could be items that you used in the project itself. So I'll show you this with my my one. We were using postcards that the children developed through the workshops themselves. So that was something that was very unique to that project itself. So that was something that if you're interested in that project, you're automatically interested in getting something like that from it. Another one, access. Think of the team involved. Think of your team. You've probably got a wealth of skills and resources there. Mini art project I did, because I do photography, I offered to do photo shoots as well, professional photo shoot, I'd offer as a reward as well. So whatever your skills, you could offer that as a reward. Unique experiences relevant to the project. With my one, we had one where if people wanted to go over to Bangladesh and volunteer, it was pretty unique. No one took it up, but that was a unique experience that was offered. So the tips, look around at your team, what you've got. You've probably got all these assets there in skills or things associated with the project that you could use there. Have different reward levels as well. So you want to make it accessible. So if someone doesn't have much money, they can still get involved. But if your project touches someone that is in a position to donate a lot, they can get the higher rung reward. So I'll go really quickly. Where are we? Okay, back to my project here. So you can see here, the first reward was $15 as a social media shout out. And then you've got a second few rewards, which are postcards. So again, that captured the essence of the project, the stories of the children involved. So it's quite powerful at those issues. And then the next rewards were craft ones that were from Bangladesh. So these were artisans that we partnered up the project there. So there's a few around there. There's a there's a photography book. This one here that I made. So again, that was telling stories behind it. And then this was a big one. No one took it up, but I thought, well, let's put it in. If you put the big rewards there, it balances it out psychologically as well. People might be thinking, oh, well, maybe I could donate something like that. I got a reward. I got someone donating $1,000 in the first one that I think they were anonymous as well. So you never know where your project will touch the heart of someone and they'll want to support it. So let's go back to here. Yeah, so rewards. It's another way of you're introducing creativity into it. So, okay, we're going to move to number 5, which is choosing a crowdfunding platform. And there's so many types out there. It can be very confusing. I was trying to find how many crowdfunding platforms are around. I couldn't actually find it. No one actually knows. The last report I was looking at, there was over 3,000. But again, they go bust and then new ones form and all that. There's so many. The main thing is that remember that a lot of them are quite Western biased like that. So when you're Googling, if you're from other countries that aren't Western countries, you might need to dig a bit further. That's again one of the biases so far. but I've tried to put in some resources in that Google Sheet, and please add your own there as well with the different platforms. There was one I found, Keto is a big one in India, but I'm sure in India there's many other ones like across other country. So there's so many around there. So, okay, so whoops. There's different models of crowdfunding as well. What we've been mainly talking about is the donation and reward based there, which is more around the social sector, like we're involved in the first two. There are other ones that are lending based. So for instance, using microcredit. If anyone knows ones like that, you could drop it in the chat. There's a famous one starting with K, 4-letter word starting with K, Kiva. You've probably heard of that. And that links up with local partners that are involved in microcredit and allows lending based online. But there's probably a whole bunch of other ones as well. It's a very active space. And the last one is equity based, which is more around social enterprise, where the person's actually buying a chunk of the enterprise itself. So factors to consider when you're choosing one. Well, does it specialize in social causes? So that's important as well, because the social causes platforms often have good storytelling capacity. They make good use of being able to put in video and photographs and text to make it really appealing to people. And also if other people browsing on platforms, they might see your project and donate to it. Though that's usually fairly rare. It's actually, you have to get your individual supporters, which we'll talk about in the next section. What crowdfunding model, we talked about that one you use. Is it mobile friendly? You'll be doing a lot of your design on a computer, but remember that your supporters, your donors, they're going to be accessing often from mobile devices. So can they access it well? Is it appealing? Can they make a donation on a mobile platform? Does it cater to your audience? Now that's an important one. Again, we're going to be looking later. Is your audience, is it locals or is it expats? Who are they? Is it the right language for them? The right payment one? So that comes down to the audience, which we'll talk about next. How much does it charge? Platforms will usually charge a percentage of what you raise. That can be 0%. It's chuffed. There's one of them that's 0%. They keep changing them, and that goes up to a lot of 3, 5, 6, even 10% of the money you make. So it's worth really looking into that. Sometimes there's specials around. You can get to get discounts. And what support does the platform offer? Some of them will have some of the good ones will have how-to guides about developing a campaign. I know Start Some Goods have a sort of free courses that they run, little accelerators and so forth. So are they going to work with you over email about developing it? So that's worth looking at, especially if it's your first time involved. There. So now we're going to go. Now we've whipped through. Looking at the goals and the rewards and the platforms, we're going to go into breakout groups again. So this will be, again, very short, but now you've probably at least got maybe a little bit of a handle with the Google Sheet. You might be able to use it a bit more with that. So the instructions are basically, you'll be in groups of 3. Just share, remember it's just sharing. You probably don't have time to discuss just any ideas around your goals, any rewards, is there some creative rewards that you could do with your project, and any ideas with platforms. Just share it 1 minute each, and then you can individually keep working with that Google Sheet itself there. So yeah, is the text got those breakout groups ready? We'll go for about 7 minutes in there. Great. And remember, do everyone have a go at filling out that sheet? And if you've got any problems, please ask myself or facilitator. Great. So I think we're coming back now. I think most people are back from the...
Yes, Michael, everyone is back to the main session.
Fantastic. Okay. That's great. Fantastic. Well, hopefully I just heard a few snippets which were quite inspiring about the different projects that you're involved with. So yeah, there's so many great ideas here. So look, we'll move along and we'll go on to the last section, really, which will be the important one around audience and outreach for your crowdfunding. So with that one, this is really it's really key, because people sometimes think, well, look, I'll make this great story here and then we'll put it online and then magically money will appear. And you'll have to actually engage with people, and the engagement comes from being very selective with the right type of audience. So you can think about these three types as: one is your broad audience, and that's basically all the ones that might be interested in the particular issue that you're going from. It's very broad. And then the target one is, I guess, the segment of those that are actually aligned. Remember that equation we had, that are all aligned to, they've got the right propensity, they're caring, they've got capacity, and so forth. And they're in between these two. They're the ones that care, and you kind of have some sort of personal or other access to them. That's who you're wanting to target. And then your network there, that's really you, your friends, the people on the inside. And this is actually the most important one. But this is where you want to start from. So this is really, people often start here at the broad audience. You start with the network, because you have to be able to convince these people that your project is worthy of support. And they're the people that basically you won't actually have to even tell them about their project, because they'll know you. With my projects, people would know me and they go, oh, Michael's doing some great work, I'll donate to whatever he does. And the same with all of you guys are doing amazing social change projects. You know your friends and supporters that if you're doing an initiative, they're going to support you. They don't even want to know about all the details of it. So that's the first ones that you want to enroll. It's kind of the low-hanging fruit, the people that you want to be on board because they want to support you in the project. Then it's the next one, the target. And they're the ones that they'll actually, people want to support projects that are they can see other people supporting. But they want to see projects that they think will actually get funded, will actually make an impact. So these are the ones you reach out next. And there you think of when you draw one of those spider diagrams, they're the ones on the outside of your first network, in a sense. So a good way of doing this, and which we don't have time, but is mapping your network exercise, where you can get a piece of paper and you just draw yourself or the project in the middle, and it's like a mind map, and you map out all the different networks that you're involved with or the team is involved with, and that's how you can access those. That's where with my projects, that's where most of the funds came from. I didn't get anywhere near the third one, and that's okay. It's only those ones that go viral and can get very big. So I wouldn't actually worry about that at all. It's really those first two, which are the key here. So this is what we call the outreach cycle. And this is like, I guess in one picture, it kind of summarizes the whole process here. So you can see this is on the vertical axis, this is attention here. And then this is on this axis, this is time. This is how the how the project's actually going along. So here, when you have an event that you'll launch, it'll go live, and then it's a good idea to have a kickoff event. So with mine, I had a public event where you can really get supporters in there, get a sense of who's in the room, who's willing to take the word out there, and then that's the peak period of attention. You're going to reach to all your personal contacts, and that's where all those donations will be coming in. You're on a high. It's all going to be great. This is where after this point, it's crucial momentum. There's all this research done on crowdfunding is that the projects that don't get any money in the first hour or half hour, often they don't even get any money at all, because if you can't mobilize then, when can you do it? So it's really key, and that's why there's a sort of a spike around there. So here what we call is the valley of boredom. Here is after you've had the first tension, then people's attention goes elsewhere. And here in this area, you need to, I guess, engage your community with updates, how the project's going, who else is being on board. This is where you can do stunts and that. In Australia, there's a type of toilet paper called Who Gives a Crap, and they fund water and sanitation projects with their toilet paper. So they did a famous campaign where the person was broadcasting from being on the toilet, and he said he'd stay on the toilet until the goal was met. And it was a bit of a gimmick, but it got the attention and all that. So it comes back to using your creativity with how can you use your own campaign? How can you have something that's visual, that might be funny, but that connects with the issue as well? So how are you going to get through this valley of boredom? And then the next part is that this is the second part, which is the end, the countdown, end of it. And that's where, say you've got a month campaign, and that's the other thing. You can have campaigns, you can usually have however long you want, but you don't want, see here, you don't want it too long, because in a way, when you're too long, you're just stretching out this valley in the middle. So I would never do a campaign longer than 6 weeks. Some people would do a 2-week campaign. It's entirely up to your team, the capacity you have, and so forth. There's no silver bullet, but you look at how much energy you have to sustain. And at this last part here, it's looking at really how do you remind people that actually your campaign's ending? Because at the first peak here, you've told everyone, and that's great, they love your campaign, but most people haven't got around to actually donating. That's what you'll find with a lot of people. And at the end part, all these donations will come in. Often at the last minute, you're writing messages, you're emailing, calling people going, we need this by midnight. So that's where a lot of the money comes in right at the end, because people are like, if I don't give to this project, then they won't get the money. That's where that tipping point becomes very important again. So, and then you follow up afterwards and so forth like that. So that's sort of in a nutshell. And again, it comes back to creativity, being visual with your projects. What kind of stories can you capture? How can you communicate with them like that? So there's lots of handbooks and resources around this. This is just big, very big picture in a short period of time. So we're going to go back into our groups the final time here. And again, this time now it'll be a chance to really share ideas about that outreach. How are you going to reach out to the communities? Who are the communities you want to reach? Is there some communities that are outside of what the box that maybe they have money and they might be interested? How can you reach them? This is where creativity is really important. And again, what kind of tactics are there some creative tactics to be able to reach them at that? So been group of 3 or 4, 1 minute just to share, brainstorm. And again, hopefully by this time, some of you have got a handle on the Google Sheet. I notice, I apologize if some people are finding it troublesome. Maybe some of the facilitators I've seen you writing the notes for participants. That would be fantastic. Just as long as, I guess by the end of it, at least you've got your name and a few ideas there, because everyone can then go forth and use this later. Great. So if we're ready to go into the groups for the final discussion.
We can't hear you.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
No, yeah.
I was saying in these workshops, I normally do 3 hours. So it's trying to fit in an awful lot in a short amount of time. But hopefully it's really given you a little bit of an idea about how to use crowdfunding for your existing projects. So I believe our time is getting very short here, but just to close, this is really the beginning, and the idea is here to, if everyone could keep developing the plans there, that sheet that I've sent through, everyone's got it, and after the workshop, when you're not juggling the Zoom and all that, it's probably going to be a lot easier to add details to it. So hopefully, at least if everyone's got at least their name and a title, that's a great way to start. And then if you can fill that out, then that's a fantastic way. Fill in your details with that sheet. If you keep going across there, there's space to add your name, contact, and as much contact details you might want, because it'd be great that now we've had these discussions here for people to still be able to collaborate and stay in touch like that. My details are all in there. You can add yours, and feel free to contact with me and each other like that. If anyone's interested in setting up a group, we can do that over email and so forth like that as well. So yeah, look, maybe I'll just put it open to people if there's any final comments, and before we close, if anyone, because we've got 16 people, we can't hear from everyone, but if there's anyone that had just some quick questions or comments just before we wrap up the workshop.
Well, my question is a very quick one. As you mentioned regarding the Western bias phenomena, maybe you may want to add some clarity on it, because in most communities, when you are operationalizing your project, you have to also follow the basic sensitivity of that community, of which some of them may have some challenges when you are trying to approach the community with westernization phenomena, of which it gets some bad feedbacks sometimes.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a really, really good point. And it can be particularly challenging, I suppose, if your project is in one community and then your supporters or the donors might be in another community, because there could be cultural sensitivities that are factors that might be working there. So yeah, look, all I can do is I can point you to some of the resources that I've put out into that spreadsheet. There's one of them which is over about 550 page sort of research manual. It's sort of a collected edited book on current research in crowdfunding, and there is some chapters on that, I believe, in that. But yeah, the cultural sensitivity is a really large one, and it really, it can come back to those communities, that which ones are you engaging, which stories are you taking from them. Yeah, is there any other quick questions or comments?
I think we probably should wrap it up, just because we've got the closing plenary starting for Asia and Oceania in about 6 minutes. So I just want to say, Michael, thank you so much for clearly the extraordinary amount of work that you've put into today's presentation, and trying to jam in 3 hours worth of your expertise knowledge into an hour and a half, which is an extraordinary accomplishment. I know for myself, it was really interesting to hear other people's ideas. And just really want to say thanks on behalf of everyone, and thanks for making that Google Sheet available so that we can let the ideas percolate like a good coffee and build from here. So as I mentioned, the next session for Asia Oceania is the closing plenary. But if you hop back onto the Hopin platform, you'll actually see that there are several other sessions that are happening. So please feel free to choose whichever one works for you, whichever one takes your fancy or you're interested in, and we'd love to see you at one of the upcoming sessions. So thanks very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. I've dropped the email in the chat. If anyone wants to get in contact, feel free over email. Yeah, but I just wish you the very best with your projects, and yeah, it's very inspiring. So keep up your amazing work.
No worries. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.